go any further, let me tell you something most people never stop to think about, and that's money. The stuff in your wallet, your bank, your savings isn't actually worth anything. Gold is. Because we live in a world built on numbers on a screen. You have to tap your card and then money moves. You log into your bank and your money shows up. But all of that is just trust, a belief system. Gold doesn't need belief. Gold doesn't need promises. Gold doesn't vanish because someone clicked the wrong button or printed too much currency that year. Gold has outlived every currency ever created. Every empire, every government, every financial system, every recession and every war. It doesn't rust, it doesn't rot, and it doesn't disappear. If you found a gold chain from 2,000 years ago, you could melt it down today and it's still exactly the same metal. And that's why gold still matters, even in 2025, in a world drowning in tech and credit and digital assets everywhere. Because when money fails, gold doesn't. When trust collapses, gold doesn't. And when the world panics, it always runs back to the same metal it's trusted for thousands of years. Gold isn't old-fashioned, gold is permanent. That's the difference. And here's the crazy part. For something so important, so powerful, so trusted, there's hardly any of it on the earth. Funny, now people talk about gold like it's everywhere, but if you gathered every ounce ever mined in human history, it would fit into a single cube small enough to sit on a tennis court. That's it. Every wedding ring, every bar in every bank, every crown, every coin, every bit of gold jewellery going back thousands of years, all of it would fit into one cube, roughly 22 metres on each side. For something the entire world treats as a financial armour, that is pretty ridiculous. And every year, mining only adds to a tiny layer to that cube. We're not talking mountains of gold, we're talking millimetres. When demand goes up, the supply doesn't suddenly jump with it. You can't print gold, you can't manufacture it. You can't whip up a few extra £1 billion worth just because the economy looks rough. This tiny global supply is why gold behaves the way it does. When people panic, the price jumps. When currencies weaken, gold strengthens. When governments overspend, gold becomes the escape hatch. It's not magic, it's maths. Scarcity isn't a slogan, it's baked into the metal itself. But here's what makes the story even stranger. Humans were obsessed with gold long before we understood scarcity, finance, or economics. Now, long before banks, coins, or even proper tools, humans were already obsessed with gold. And the strangest part, they didn't even know why. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors had no concept of currency. There was no markets, no savings, no economy theories. Yet, when they saw gold, something in their brain lit up. Why? Because gold is one of the only things in nature that looks perfect, straight from the earth. No rust, no corrosion, no dullness. You pick it up, brush off the dirt, and it shines instantly. Our brains are wired to notice that. It's the same instinct that makes us drawn to fire, water, and light. Gold triggered us primal signal. This is special, this is safe, this is valuable. People wore it before they traded it. They decorated temples with it before they counted it. Gold became a symbol of status, beauty and power, long before it ever became money. And without realising it, humans created the foundation for the first global financial system, simply by being mesmerised by metal that refused to fade. And that's fascination, that's emotion, reaction we still have today. It's exactly what pushed gold from being decoration to domination. Gold didn't become money because someone declared it currency. It became money because nothing else on earth behaved like it. As human socialites grew, trade grew with them. Because people needed a way to store value, something they could trust, something everyone recognised, and that's something that wouldn't rot, rust, or vanish. And gold was the obvious winner. You could travel thousands of miles across tribes, cultures, and continents, and everyone accepted gold. Not because of law, but because of its reputation. Gold was consistent. Gold was durable and gold was beautiful. Gold was scarce. It didn't matter whether you was a farmer, a soldier, a king or a merchant. Gold was the closest thing humanity had to universal trust. Bit by bit, gold jewellery become gold coins. Gold coins become weights and measures. And before everyone even realised, gold had become the backbone of global trade. Not by force, not by marketing, not by government decree, but because the metal itself solved the biggest problem humans had. How do I store my hard work in something that won't disappear tomorrow? Gold answered that question better than anything else in history. But then something changed. Humans found a way to cheat the system. Not by replacing gold, but by promising gold. And that's where the trouble begins. Now, paper money was never meant to replace gold. It was created as a shortcut. And like most shortcuts, it eventually backfired. In the early days, carrying gold around was a big problem. It was too heavy, too risky, too tempting for thieves. So goldsmiths and bankers came up with a very clever solution. Leave your gold with us and we'll give you a note that says how much you've deposited. These notes weren't money, they were receipts. A promise that your gold was sitting safely in a vault, and people loved it. Notes were lighter, they were safer and easier to trade. Before long, everyone was using paper instead of metal, and that system worked. As long as gold was actually there. Then came the twist. Banks realised most people never came back to collect their gold, so they started lending out more notes than they had gold to back them. More promises, less metal, and this tiny loophole grew into the modern financial system. A world built on credit, trust and hope, not gold. Paper money became real money, but only because people believed the promise behind it. But belief can only stretch so far, and eventually governments pushed the system to breaking point. Now in 1971, the world woke up to a brand new financial system, and most people still don't realise the rules had changed while they were asleep. For centuries, paper money was tied to gold. If a government printed too much, people could demand the real thing, and that kept everyone honest. But by the late 1960s, the United States had printed more dollars than they had gold to back them. Wars, debt, spending, the numbers didn't add up. Countries around the world started calling America's bluff. They wanted to swap their paper dollars for gold, and fast. So on the 15th of August 1971, President Nixon went on TV and made a quite important announcement that changed the global economy forever. He cut the link between money and gold. Overnight, the dollar and every currency linked to it became nothing more than a promise. No gold backing, no safety net, no limit on how much could be printed. Money became an idea, not a metal. And what happens when you hand government the power to print unlimited currency? You get inflation, debt, booms that don't last, crashes that come out of nowhere. 1971 wasn't a small policy change, it was the moment the world moved from real value to abstract value. And once money became unlimited, something else became inevitable. Governments started to fear gold because gold exposes their mistakes. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Governments don't hate gold because it's old-fashioned. They hate it because they can't control it. Once money was no longer tied to gold, something predictable happened. Governments realised they could print their way out of almost any problem. A recession, you print money. War, print more money. Debt, print more money. Votes to win, definitely print money. But gold ruins that game, because gold is honest, gold tells the truth, gold exposes every bad decision instantly, because when a government prints too much money, the currency gets weaker and the price of gold shoots up. It's like a financial lie detector. That's why central banks quietly buy tons of gold while telling the public to trust the system. They know gold is the only asset that can't be inflated, hacked, deleted, revalued or printed into oblivion. Your pound today buys less than it did last year, and it'll buy even less next year. That's not a mistake, that's the system. Gold doesn't play by those rules. And that's exactly why ordinary people run to gold when they feel something is wrong. But gold isn't just sitting in vaults. It has a life, a journey, and every ounce mined ends up somewhere. Every ounce of gold ever mined still exists today. It's not all sitting in bars and coins like most people can imagine. Gold has a strange life. It's melted, reshaped, recycled, stored, traded, worn, hidden, stolen and recovered, but almost never destroyed. So where does it actually go? Around half of all gold sits in jewellery, not fancy investment bars. I'm talking earrings, necklaces, bangles, everyday pieces worn across the world. Another big chunk is held by central banks, quietly, silent, heavy. Countries don't talk about it much, but behind the scenes they keep stacking because they know gold's the ultimate insurance policy. Then there's investment gold, like bars, coins and bullion, the stuff people buy when they're worried about inflation, recessions or governments losing control. And finally you've got technology, your phone, your laptop, your car, they all contain tiny amounts of gold. It doesn't rust, it conducts electricity perfectly and it lasts forever. Gold's not just beautiful, it's useful. Here's what makes it fascinating. Every year new demand appears, but supply barely moves. That tiny cube from earlier doesn't grow fast enough to keep up. And that's why gold never falls out of fashion. It's always needed, always wanted, and never goes away. But gold's real power shows up during chaos, when economies wobble, when currencies fall, when the world panics. Whenever the world falls apart, wars, recession, banking failures, gold doesn't just rise, it erupts. It's one of the most predictable patterns in financial history. When things are calm, people trust paper money. They trust banks and they trust their savings. But the moment confidence cracks, even a little, gold becomes their emergency exit. During the 2008 crash, gold soared. During the pandemic, gold soared. During every major war in modern history, gold has soared. Why? Because gold doesn't rely on government systems or promises. It doesn't care who's in charge. It doesn't care what interest rates do. And it doesn't care how much debt the world is drowning in. When people panic, they want something real, something solid, something they can hold in their hand that won't vanish. If a bank shuts, or market collapses, or a currency is printed into worthlessness, here's the part most people miss. Gold doesn't rise because it changes. Gold rises because everything else falls. Gold isn't volatile, the world is. And every time history gets chaotic, gold behaves exactly as it always has, like the metal of the last resort. And that brings us to the metal hardly anyone talks about, the one sitting in gold shadow, but with explosive potential. It gets all the headlines, but silver is the quiet one that takes off when nobody's watching. Most people think of silver as gold's cheaper cousin, the metal you buy when you can't afford gold. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Silver isn't just a precious metal, it's an industrial powerhouse. It's the solar panels, it's the electric cars, it's the medical tech, it's the AI hardware. It's even in the device you're watching this right now. Gold sits in vaults, silver gets used. And once silver is used in certain industries, it's almost impossible or too expensive to recover. That means supply shrinks, not demand keeps rising. And here's the crazy part. Historically, the gold to silver ratio has hovered around 12 to 1. Today, it's over 80 to 1. Put simply, silver is massively undervalued. Every time silver makes a big move, it moves fast. In 2020, it jumped around 140% in a matter of months. And with industries relying on it more every year, the long-term pressure is building. So while everyone stares at gold, the smart money's quietly stacking silver. And here's another player in the fight for the future of money, a digital one, powered by belief rather than metal. Now, I get a lot of people asking me the same question. It's, James, what do you think about Bitcoin? And here's the honest answer. I know gold inside out, but Bitcoin, I'm still learning. I'm not one of these people who pretends to be an expert on everything. And I've spent 35 years working with gold and silver, real metals, real value and with real history. Bitcoin is a completely different world. That doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it won't grow. It just means it's not something I'll comment on like I understand it as deeply as gold, because I don't. But here's what I can tell you. Gold has thousands of years behind it. Empires rise and fall, gold stays. Currencies collapse, gold stays. Governments print money, gold will stay. Bitcoin has potential, absolutely. It's digital, it's decentralized, and people clearly believe in it. But it's also new, it's very volatile, and belief-driven assets behave very differently to metals you can hold in your hand. So for me, gold is my foundation. It's a thing you own when you want certainty, not speculation. Bitcoin might be the future, it might not. Gold is the past, the present, and in my opinion, still the safest store of value. And that brings us to the next question everyone asks at the end of this video, like, should I buy gold right now? People always ask me, James, right now, is it the time to buy gold? And here's my honest answer. The best time to buy gold is before you need it. Now, gold isn't about time in the market. It's about protecting yourself from the world's madness, the debt, the inflation, the money printing, the uncertainty. Look back through history. Every time there's a crisis, people who already own gold are calm. And the people who don't are the ones scrambling about. Gold isn't magic. It doesn't fix your life, and it doesn't make you rich overnight. But what it does, and this is the reason I've trusted it for over 3 decades, is protect your buying power. When everything else is falling apart, you don't buy gold because the price is going up. You buy gold because governments can't print it. You buy gold because it survived every financial disaster humans have created. And you buy gold because it keeps you steady when the rest of the system wobbles. So, should you buy gold now? If you believe the world is getting calmer, safer, and more financially stable, then that's up to you. But my advice would always be buy a little every month, or as much as you can feel comfortable buying. And if you want to understand how to protect your wealth properly, not hype, not guesswork, I've put together a free gold and silver investment guide. It breaks everything down in a simple way, and in the same way I've explained it here. Now you can download it below, and if you want real guidance, book a free consultation with me or one of my team at Blackwell Jewellers. No pressure and no nonsense. Just straightforward advice from people that have been working with precious metals every single day. I'm James at Blackwell Jewellers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.